Today I'm going to rank the greatest Roundnet teams of all time. We've got 64 of them to get through, so let's just get started. All right, first up we've got Cruise Control. All right, Cruise Control, they only played for a season, but they did finish very hot. Unfortunately, they basically just had one good performance, so I'm going to drop them into the D tier to start. Now, Critical Hit, another team that's only played one full year together, so a little trickier. Granted, they did have some higher highs. They did push Rogue in some big tournaments in August last year. They also got second at the STS Championship, so a little bit higher peak. I'm going to give them the C tier. Double Clutch, third on the list. And just for the record, I have randomized the order here. I'm not pulling favorites or anything. I just randomized these before we joined. Double Clutch, they won a national championship. They got second at another one. And they also have just won so many big tournaments through the years. Oh, man, I don't want to overweight the Spikeball Tour Series Championship, but I think I'm going to land in the A tier for now. I might come back to that one. I know that could be a hot take for some of y'all. You might be wondering, how am I doing my tier lists? I'm thinking about big wins, general longevity for a team, as well as key clutch performances from them, and just general metagame influence. So next up, we've got Flexual Healing. Ooh, that's a fun one. These are so tricky because we're going to see some teams and players pop up that only played together for a year. But yeah, Flexual Healing, really good team for just that year in 2021, I believe. I'm going to drop them. I don't know if B tier makes sense. I might have to drop them down to the C tier. Yeah. Gonna really bias things. I think you'll see a lot of one and done teams are gonna be stuck in the lower half of this board. But worth noting is there's no F tier because these are already all really good teams. These are all really great teams. So that's why I had to kind of inflate the grades here, because teams that you don't see in this consideration, in this conversation, are definitely, filling up the bottom of that chart. Oh, like I said, Wabi Sabi. So back to back, Jarrett Rouse has 3 teams on this board. I'm gonna go 2 of them back to back. Wabi Sabi. Oh. They got some really big wins back in the day. I wanna give them B tier. I gotta check my notes actually. I'm gonna give huge props to Wyatt Semke because he is putting together this whole bracket on Instagram. So I'm gonna make a tier list, but the community as a whole is going to be voting on who is the greatest team of all time through all these different things. So definitely jump in there. Yeah, they were Spikeball Elite. Man, this is a tricky one. I feel like they had a very similar year to like Critical Hit though, where they were just like one of the best teams, but not the best team on the season. So it's hard to put them higher than C tier, I feel. Who's next on my list? I've got to rank. Let's see. After Wabi Sabi, we've got Graham Rogers. All right, well, this one's actually very easy. Excuse me. So I'm just going to scroll up to the top. You got that SS tier for, honestly, there's only a couple teams that are going to land there, and I don't think I'm going to shock you. I'm going to go pretty chalk with those picks. Just don't be surprised when I have nothing interesting to say about, one of the few teams to three-peat in the STS, one of the few teams to just absolutely take over their division for more than a season, and not to mention be the first ever women's world champs. So Graham Rogers, very cold takes from me. Nothing crazy going on there. Spotless, this is, I think, an easy drop. Just like a very good team that has been around for a year and hasn't had really a huge impact otherwise. Who's next? Two guys. This is a fun one. Two guys. Oh man, I think I got to put Two Guys in the S tier because something they did was they were the first team to beat the team that you couldn't beat. They beat Chico's Spikes, and they did that in pretty dramatic fashion in 2016. And then on top of that, they also followed up with another podium finish. So they had the multiples of years of good results. Very similar track record to Double Clutch. I think they just upset the meta game or like the ecosystem of us having this one really strong team, whereas Double Clutch was that very good team, but they kind of inherited that world of an open like world of opportunity. Double Clutch won in a year where there wasn't a big bad. Maybe they were the big bad, but honestly, there was just so much good parity when Double Clutch won the title. Next up, Anchored LI. Anchored LI, man, really great guys and good players over the years. They've got some longevity, but they didn't do anything so impactful. In my opinion, I think I might be a harsh grader here. But they won some big Grand Slams. They did take down CS that one time, so actually I got to bump them to at least a B tier. That was a really big win. Origin Chaos. This is hard. Now I got to check some notes here because I don't remember too much, but Matt Bone and Ryan Weiler, two really great players. They didn't do a whole heck of a lot. I don't see a reason to put them really too much higher there. They didn't really show up at many of the big tournaments back in the day. I'll put them in C for now. Vacay, national champs, STS champs. Only one off for a year though, and their impact was pretty minor. This is when Becca split up with Ali for the year and then played with Jordi Vigna. They did a good job. They won their tournaments they needed to, but they didn't win all of them. They weren't dominant, and I feel like that was actually pretty chalky for them to win anyway. They did a good job. They didn't do anything outstanding. We got 2K. 2K, oh man, this is probably, it's a hard spot. Probably a team that needs to be in the 2 or 3 here. Yeah, their year feels very similar to like a critical hit to a flexual healing, where they were a really good team for a year, and that's about all they achieved. They didn't do anything too crazy as far as their resume goes. Sloppy Seconds is a fun one because Sloppy Seconds, this is the first team that we saw Gabe Finocchi play on in a big way, with Gabe and Travis Core. They were like consensus #1 team for a while. I think what I'm going to need to do, I'm like realizing I'm spacing really like rudely. I need to put Sloppy Seconds in the A tier, and Double Clutch I can bump up to S tier. That makes a bit more sense to me as far as how I'm bracketing these. But yeah, Sloppy Seconds, tough end to the year. If you followed their story, got first round of the STS Championship, got upset early in their last tour stop. They played that last like sanction event they played at the time. Pooses and Dives. This is a funny logo. Pooses and Dives, they've been a pretty good team for a bit, but I don't think there's much for them to really stick their hat on. Bad Combo. We obviously have like a bit of recency bias challenge here because there's so many more really good teams now. So I have to make sure I don't over promote all of these recent really good teams. Bad Combo, they did lose to Critical Hit at that big tournament, but they also beat Rogue. And Rogue is some really good players. What's tricky right now is we're not ranking players, we're doing teams. So when I think about teams, it's hard to say Bad Combo had a better year than Critical Hit. They did get a maybe better win in beating Rogue. That's a tricky one. In system, easy. Probably A tier. They're Canadian national champs. They won a Columbus major. That one's pretty good. Easily Doug. This is a fun one. They won their college championship, which doesn't mean too much, but they also have that longevity. They played for more than a minute, whereas a lot of these new age teams are a little newer. I'm gonna stick them in the B tier for now. I gotta go faster. I gotta go so much faster. Wonky Sauce. Ooh, another Canadian national champ, but similar to In System in that way, but dissimilar in that they didn't really do much more than kind of break out and make some big upsets at that one tournament in California. After they broke out in California, they never really found their footing. They were always that next team down, that second tier of teams when they were playing. Huge win at the World Championship to upset Fred and Matt Cole. I still have high on that last serve call, but that's okay. Clippers are going to clip that. And then Bowbody. Bowbody, when I grade their year, that's how I grade their year. That one year that Tori and Olivia played together. It wasn't their best stuff. 2 really talented players that didn't quite put it together. Assistive Touch, I think this is an easy spot for Assistive Touch. World champs. This is tricky actually, because I think I'd want Assistive Touch to be above 2 guys in Double Clutch if I was tier listing them. But I also just don't think Assistive Touch belongs in the same tier as Graham Rogers. So maybe I have to make more tiers. I don't know. I'm not going to actually rank all the teams. I'm going to sit on that for now. I'll come back to it. Bolivia. If you don't know, Bolivia is David Gonzalez and Gus Gonzalez. People probably know David because David's still pretty active. He plays, he runs tournaments. His brother Gus was the other half of the team. They did a lot of really good stuff back in the day. They won a couple really interesting tournaments. They were so hot for this one wild period. I want to check my notes. I say my notes, but I want to check Wyatt's notes. Yeah, 2017 they kind of went crazy and they beat a lot of teams. Got a first, a second, a third, over a very short period of time after really not hitting any podiums. And that's what got them to be Spike Ball Elite. I think they belong in the C tier though. Not really much higher than that. Moxie. All right, we got to be checking notes here. Moxie got second in the 2018 championship. That's right, that was on the beach. And they got third at the 2017 championship. I think that might be, I might have to check the facts on that, Wyatt. 2017 championship. I thought, did they play together? Maybe they played together. I'll leave that alone. Wyatt probably did his homework. Anyway, 2 very good years of Roundnet. I think that lands them pretty solidly in the B tier. I think they're probably on the higher end of this B tier, to be honest. Chubby Bunny. Ooh, just such an OG team. I lost to Chubby Bunny at my first ever tournament. won a regional championship, some other good stuff. I don't think Chubby Bunny could go higher than the B tier. I'm going to have to probably reorder this. This is going to be a disaster. Hilltop, love the guys. Huge impact on sports as far as longevity. Yeah, obviously they didn't play well their last year out, and they had a lot of injuries. So this is tricky to balance. They were at one point they were power ranked third at one point, and that was when they were like both teenagers, and they like were beating, not me because I never lost to them, but like other people. I don't know. Probably got to be C tier though, just because they never put all the pieces together. They got second at regionals and had like that first big injury, and yeah, didn't really make the comeback. But really, really good stuff from them. Man, I'm gonna feel so bad if I put like 4 teams in the D tier and that's it. Who's next? Oh, this is fun. So Max back to back here for FM. FM, I'm just gonna throw them right in the C tier. They won a big major. They took one off double clutch. They're a team like a couple of these teams, right? Like Spotless and some other ones that are still active on the board. That their story is not fully written. Spicy Ruby, this is a fun one. Second at the national championship. Feel like C tier is appropriate for like the amount of high level play they put together, but never really peaked. This BCD tier is super hard, you guys. I don't know. Very curious to see what other thoughts people have on this stuff. Overkill, got second at the nationals at Vacay 1, and I don't think they did too much more than that. I think they really just got that one big tournament result. They got second in some other tour stops, but nothing really. I think super impressive overall. Boisterous, really good team. Obviously, like always in the mix for coming up and being like among the best players out there. Some people say they won a national championship. I would say that there was a national championship in 2020. I don't know if that stirs anything up, but yeah, I think they're pretty safely an A tier team. They had some really good longevity. They played for a couple of years, and one of the few teams that played like pre and post pandemic as well. So that's also impressive longevity and like just stick to itiveness. CS, wow, they're rivals. CS, you know what happens to teams that win 3 big tournaments in a row. They just go right up there to the top. I won't be talking more about CS today. ES, wow, I love how this is playing. Best team in Europe. I think like impact on the sport is really where I think about what it means for like Europe to have such a strong team, kind of leading the charge. Not only playing for multiple years, but then last year they didn't lose to a European team last year. At least in big tournaments. I don't know if they lost in smaller tournaments. That's just crazy. Yeah. And again, one of those teams that still has some unwritten stories to continue writing. So that's fun for them. Rito Boys. Oh man, this is pretty easy. I feel like you just throw them, like they had some really good tournaments here and there, but probably need to be in the C tier, just based on like body of work. This is hard. I might need to thin out this C tier and do some more adjustments as I go. Kickstart. Ooh, I need to remember how Karen, Sarah, I don't remember all the results. They got some second places. Yeah, second in San Francisco. I was just looking at the breakdown from Lefty on 2. They won a couple other challengers. And they took a game off of Twins in Richmond in 2022. I remember that. Yeah. It was one of the 2 games that was taken off of them that day. Where do we put Kickstart? God, I love this this stuff here. I think it's super hard because there's just only one team for the day. So yeah, let me make. I don't matter very much. Let me just get out of the way. That's nice. Okay. Who's next? That was the halfway mark. So that's huge. Okay, halfway mark. Golden Set. This is an easy one. Golden Set, 2 of the loudest players out there. Played all right for a bit. Eric or Harding, if either of you watch this, that's crazy. You guys should play some more Roundnet. Next up, Trio. We're going to try to go really fast here. Trio, no big results. And just that 1 year, I don't see how Trio could be above it. Like I know they beat like Bobati, like the big one, but yeah, they played well for a year. Again, like Ali has so many other great accomplishments for Graham Rogers, but that doesn't mean that Trio itself had like the same impact on the sport. Nashberg, meanwhile, very big impact, winning lots of regionals. Apologies for the crop. Nashberg, you guys are like super wide instead of a square. Fun way to spell it though. Biggie Smalls. Yeah, the number of wins that Katie and Allie put up in a short period of time was super, super impressive. Yeah. Missing Allie like every single time I think about any of the Roundnet stuff related to her and the people she played with. Judgment Day. This might be hot. Actually, this isn't hot, right? Like, they didn't do much. Judgment Day like played all right for a year and they didn't get any wins. Like, they're a D tier team. As like excellent players. But yeah, their impact on the sport, their outcomes, like, fine. That's funny though. Cougs, good team. Got a second place at the big championship. I want to reserve my tiering. I know they got second at 2017, but yeah, they didn't do too much more. Maybe I'll give them a bump for getting that second place finish though. That's worth something. All right, Twins, you know the drill. Zoomies, man. Yeah, I mean, you got second at World Championship and some other big finishes. It's gonna be an A tier spot for me. Let's see. Point Loma. Wow, what a throwback. Point Loma did some really good stuff. They got third at that big championship back in the day. In 2018, when the sport was just so dominated by CS, Point Loma really was one of the few teams that was climbing and climbing. Oh man, just so many podiums. It's kind of crazy. They were the team that I felt like as a competitor at the time that they were getting the best bracket draws, but then they just kept winning their side of the bracket draw and performing well. So at a certain point, everyone, including myself, was like, oh, these guys are actually just very good at Roundnet. So fair play. After Point Loma, we've got the rookies. Oh, such an OG team. Like, I want to put them higher just because of the impact on the sport. I think I want to put them in the A tier. I think that's okay. Like, they feel similar to me the way Sloppy Seconds did, where they weren't always the best team, but they just were so good for so long. And then also they just have such an impact. I think I actually want to put them, I'm going to put them in the S tier because of the way that they played and influenced the defensive minded side of the game. And just that longevity too. Like, they were a top team for so long. You look at all these teams that have come and gone. The rookies was one of the few that was playing for a really long time. So maybe too hot, but I'm going to go S tier for now. Handsome Beavers, I think it's the same thing as the rookies. Pretty much the same thing. I swear I have a random list order. I didn't want to go alphabetical, so I just threw these in a list. But that's actually crazy. I could say all the same things about Buddy and Bryce's impact on just like sand competitive play. Again, very rarely beating Chico as the top team, but huge impact on the sport. Yeah, I feel like I need a bump. Well, yeah, I feel like I have to bump Assist a touch because of, I know I'm older, but the way the modern players have probably been influenced to play more defensively because of Buddy and Clark again. I feel good about that. And also, again, world champ, so I'm not going to take that too lightly. Next up, Kingdom Come. Oh wow, we're just talking about all the top teams now. Kingdom Come, it's going to be beat. It's going to be bested by somebody. Someone's going to play a more impressive, better tournament than Kingdom Come did in 2023 at the STS Championship. But until that happens, that is just the craziest performance by a team. And obviously both players individually did some great stuff. But geez, what a day that was. Strange Embrace. Okay, this is like an easy, I think, solid slot into the A spot. Just they have the longevity, similar to the rookies and the Handsome Beavers. For me, I felt like the peaks weren't quite as high. That also might just be my perceived bias. Yeah, I forget if I noted this is not an objective tier list. This is just my subjective tier list. Also, rough. I couldn't get the exact logo for them. Swervy, you know what to do. Actually, they did beat a couple really good teams here and there. So I feel like I want to take those into account. They beat Assistive Touch when it didn't matter as much earlier in the year. They took out Fanaki Modell. They had some really good wins. They just had, I feel like, a pretty short resume, exposure to playing. Yeah. Trying to look at the teams that are below them and compare them in my head. Yeah. I don't know. The C tier might be too big. Maybe I'm biased and I gotta remove people from the C tier. Switch it. Really good team. 2 really good players. Played all right for a year, so that's good. Bente Hamburguesas played for more than a year. Did some really cool stuff. Yeah. 2016, 2017. I mean, there's Spike Ball Elite, but on it, like so many teams on this list were Spike Ball Elite. Moctega. Ooh, that's a fun one. Let me remind myself. Okay, we're looking for Moctega. Troy was on 2 guys, and Moctega, and Chubby Bunny. One of the few people that's on 3 or more teams. It's just a side. That's like doing the greatest players of all time is easier and harder because you have to now divide all these teams and multiply it by kind of 2, but also easier because you get to look at players' longevity and not tie them to the teams. So, yeah, man, winning that National Grand Slam was such a big day. That was it was when Boisterous beat CS, and then Boisterous lost to Moctega in the final. Such a weird, wacky day where CS like got a poor seed in bracket play. Man, some really good wins. I feel like that's got to be C tier then. How'd they do with the championship that year? Yeah, they got 4th. To Flexual Healing. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's just so easy to think about all like the crazy matches that I can remember seeing. One that comes to mind is Moctega playing Chorna Bulls, Chris Hornacek and Skylar Bulls, and just I think I got asked to help observe. I forget if I helped observe that one, if I was like just hearing about it being. It was a spicy matchup. Oh man, so many spicy matchups back in the day, and today still. People love to be bad at calls. What can I say? Man, we're working on it. Okay, back to the rankings. Origin Vengeance. Wow, this is a team. It's hard to put I think they have to go in the A tier. They feel very similar to like a Strange Embrace, Sloppy Seconds, like a very good team. Yeah, very good team with some like longevity, and they kind of flipped things on their head. Like Origin Vengeance was kind of the first team that helped people believe that you could win tournaments and not be from California. That's kind of crazy. I mean, not that people didn't think they could win it, but they were really the first team to just do it. There's Origin Elite was technically the one before that. Sadly not on this list, but another really good team. All right. Tiramisu are the European champs. Yeah. I think we got to put them on the A tier for that. Towerful as a team. I don't know why I jumped to Towerful. Hold my horses. I was thinking about Towerful in response to Tiramisu. Next up was Chico Spikes. Chico Spikes, I think that's an easy SS tier. Like the OG greatest, like the OG GOAT team. Will always be, there's always going to be the first big champion. Like Graham Rogers are kind of in that way. There's a team that won before them, but Chico did it first, and then Graham Rogers followed shortly after. Monkey Business. Man, I don't know if it was like Monkey Business has a weird seed or something, but Monkey Business was a really good team. I want to look at like the impact. I think this is tricky because like the impact that CS had on the sport is really big, but also so this is where Peter John as like a player and tier listing or whatever it looks like becomes harder, because Monkey Business also was one of the first teams that they just sent someone to hit on 2 regularly. Like Peter John was just so good at hitting that was a thing that they did, and no one else really did it then, and no one really does it now either. But it was just so different. K2 beat Twins. K2 beat Twins, and then they left. It's really tricky to rank a team that played like 3 tournaments. They lost to Twins, and then they beat Twins. But yeah, I can't put them in the C tier. I think that impact on beating Twins is really good. Again, like the longevity, the other big things is hard. They were the best team in women's Roundnet for like a month. Yeah. I think the longevity versus like the highest highs is like epitomized by K2. Very high, very short time period. Scream Team, I can't speak to how much they're doing in Europe. Let's see. Are there any other notable things? They got 4th at Worlds. Oh, I did forget that they were playing out for 4th. Okay. Yeah, feels hard to put them above the D tier. And again, like everybody on this list is really good. Like there's no F tier for a reason. Just pointing that out very clearly. Everybody here is passing grades for great team. Feel like the need to defend the D tier folks. Like those are all really good teams. Let's see. Trippy Lizard. Another great team. Great example of that. Some really good longevity. Man, that's another tricky one with the impact on the sport. Not tricky, just like how do I want to weigh it? So it was another really fun, watchable team. And I'll be honest, like I'm very fond of a lot of the players and teams on these lists. So, that's hard. I'm gonna hold them there though. Thus, I think this is feels like a B tier team. National champs, that longevity of second, the national championship 3 years ago in 2021. Lots of good stuff from that one team. And excitedly, like somehow one of the teams that I guess has more to write in their history book, so that's cool. Subpar team. I don't think there's a reason to put them much farther. Like really good team, played CS close ones. Just a few more. Schweppes, man. If you know what my not gripe, but what my like so close thing is with Schweppes, you can share with everybody. But I'll save that for a little off topic. RCG Powerline. They're the European champs from a couple of years ago, right? From 2022, I believe. So I got to put them in the C tier at least. Yeah, and just that longevity and what that team means for Europe too. And the sport. It's interesting. It's not like who's the best team. It's like who's great. So that's a tricky one. Origin Impact I think has to be the D tier. It makes me want to pull Origin Chaos down, to be honest. Sorry y'all. Where's Origin Chaos in this list? They were just so early. Cool. And then last and certainly not least here at the bottom, we've got Rogue. Rogue, man, it's so interesting. Rogue, I think, is not quite an S tier team because, I'm looking at the teams that are there. I feel like there needs to be a category maybe in between S and A for like the rookies, Handsome Beavers, and Rogue. That's how I'm feeling about it. So let's do grade inflation. Let's put Rogue up here. But yeah, obviously everybody knows how good Rogue has been as a team, but the longevity isn't quite there yet. What is there and has been apparent even back to they've played tournaments before they played the broader like national scene in 2023 is just serving the way they serve. Like they weren't the first people to do it, but they definitely became some of the best people to do it. So that's just been that's where the sport is right now. Whether it's where it is in a couple of years, TBD. But I think the rookies, Handsome Beavers, Rogue have all had really big impacts on how people approach going after breaks. Speaking of getting breaks and stuff, Towerful, very good team. But I think just like their overall like greatness, longevity is like just fine. Like they didn't win the European Championship, didn't get that feather in their cap. They didn't beat Twins. They pushed Twins in the STS Championship. And otherwise they don't have a lot of, I think, like big like wins to their name. Yeah. They won the Toulouse Major. I guess I was there for that. I was observing. But otherwise, yeah, they won a Prague Challenger. That was it. Just some good stuff. And again, Towerful is one of those teams that has two really good players that played together for a short period of time, and now they're going to go in different ways. And that team won't be any greater, but the players are really great. And then similarly here, actually, at the very end, Razzmatazz, I believe, one of the first teams to beat Graham Rogers in a long stretch of time, and otherwise didn't do a ton, but kind of pushed the needle. Jordy and Tori did. So it makes me want to put them in the C tier because they kind of pushed some of those top teams. So here's my tier list. Let me get out of the way. That's where I should have been this whole time. There wasn't enough room there. But yeah, let me know what you all think about this tier list. I kind of just did it from the hip. I thought it was fun to do. I would totally recommend if you're doing it that you do it in the same way. You just kind of pull things in, and obviously you're allowed to make changes like I did as you go. But this is going to be my tier list for the 64 greatest Roundnet teams. Definitely check out the greatest Roundnet teams of all time bracket that's going on Instagram. If you need to make your own tier list, I've also got a link down below for you to make yours. Share it with me. You can tag me on Instagram if you make your own. I'll be sharing this out. And otherwise, thanks for watching. See you in the next thing.